Partner Audio LLC presents The Waning of the Middle Ages, a study of the forms of life, thought, and art in France and the Netherlands in the 14th and 15th centuries, by Johan Huizinga, read by Jean Brassard. Preface. History has always been far more engrossed by problems of origins than by those of decline and fall. When studying any period, we are always looking for the promise of what the next is to bring. Ever since Herodotus, and earlier still, the questions imposing themselves upon the mind have been concerned with the rise of families, nations, kingdoms, social forms, or ideas. So, in medieval history, we have been searching so diligently for the origins of modern culture that at times it would seem as though what we call the Middle Ages had been little more than the prelude to the Renaissance. But in history, as in nature, birth and death are equally balanced. The decay of overripe forms of civilization is as suggestive a spectacle as the growth of new ones. And it occasionally happens that a period in which one had, hitherto, been mainly looking for the coming to birth of new things suddenly reveals itself as an epoch of fading and decay. The present work deals with the history of the 14th and 15th centuries, regarded as a period of termination, as the close of the Middle Ages. Such a view of them presented itself to the author of this volume, whilst endeavouring to arrive at a genuine understanding of the art of the brothers Van Eyck and their contemporaries, that is to say, to grasp its meaning by seeing it in connection with the entire life of their times. Now, the common feature of the various manifestations of civilization of that epoch proved to be inherent rather in that which links them to the past than in the germs which they contain of the future. The significance, not of the artists alone, but also of theologians, poets, chroniclers, princes, and statesmen, could be best appreciated by considering them not as the harbingers of a coming culture, but as perfecting and concluding the old. This English edition is not a simple translation of the original Dutch, second edition 1921, first 1919, but the result of a work of adaptation, reduction, and consolidation under the author's directions. The references, here left out, may be found in full in the original. Verse quotations are given in the original French throughout the work. In order to avoid an undue increase in length, quotations in prose are, as a rule, given in translations only, except in the concluding chapters where the literary expression as such is discussed, and the actual language becomes important. Here the Old French prose also is set out in full. The author wishes to express his sincere thanks to Sir J. Rennell Rodd, whose kind interest in the book gave rise to this edition, and to the translator, Mr. F. Hopman of Leiden, whose clear insight into the exigencies of translation rendered the recasting possible, and whose endless patience with the wishes of an exacting author made the difficult task a work of friendly cooperation. J. H., Leiden, April 1924. Chapter 1. The Violent Tenor of Life. To the world when it was 500 years younger, the outlines of all things seemed more clearly marked than to us. The contrast between suffering and joy, between adversity and happiness, appeared more striking. All experience had yet to the minds of men the directness and absoluteness of the pleasure and pain of child life. Every event, every action, were still embodied in expressive and solemn forms, which raised them to the dignity of a ritual. For it was not merely the great facts of birth, marriage, and death which, by the sacredness of the sacrament, were raised to the rank of mysteries. Incidents of less importance, like a journey, a task, a visit, were equally attended by 1,000 formalities, benedictions, ceremonies, formulae. Calamities and indigence were more afflicting than at present. It was more difficult to guard against them and to find solace. Illness and health presented a more striking contrast. The cold and darkness of winter
Sample complete. Ready to continue?